Play read the wrong name, while her hand was in mine. We were 3 blocks from the restaurant when the car decided to become a host. A soft chime, a polite voice that had never met an awkward pause it didn't want to fill. Message from Evan. I can't stop thinking about the elevator. Would you like to reply? Lena's hand was in mine on the console. Her thumb froze on the ridge of a scar I got when I was 5, and her breath did that almost laugh, almost gasp that means you've been caught by the universe and you're trying to negotiate with it. Don't, she said to the dashboard, a prayer addressed to software. CarPlay waited, patient and stupid. Would you like to reply? It asked again, as if the problem were politeness and not gravity. I took my hand back. Not fast, not theatrical, just a small recalibration like moving a glass so it won't fall off a table. Elevator, I said. The word sounded like I was trying on someone else's shoes. It's nothing, she said, choosing a lie that might hold for the 3 blocks we had left. It didn't. We hit a red light and stood still with the kind of stillness that shows up in photographs from before a war. Is it the Evan from your office? I asked, which was generous of me. I only know one Evan. He's the one with the laugh that starts early and ends late. He carries a tote bag like it contains a manifesto. She swallowed. Yes, she said. No story, no diversion. I appreciated the honesty the way you appreciate the person who doesn't add sugar to a terrible medicine. Do we go to dinner? I said. Or do we turn around and admit that the name elevator is doing a lot of work here? Dinner, she said. We can't implode on Market Street. Maya will be waiting. She's got the book launch, I promised I'd. Smile on cue, I said. I tried to make it a joke. It arrived as a bruise. We drove the last blocks in a silence that was not empty. It was a room full of things that had not been said yet. In the rear view, the city did that forgiving glitter it does on the first dry night after a week of rain. You could almost believe you were the only person who'd ever tried to lie in a car. Maya waved from the restaurant window with the bright efficiency of a person who learned her smiles at a place that paid by the hour. Inside, people honed their laughter against wine glasses. The books were stacked by the door in an enthusiastic pyramid. On the cover, The Things We Pretend Not to Know. I wanted to applaud the props department. Mark, Maya said, kissing my cheek. She smelled like paper and victory. Lena, she said, and pulled my girlfriend into a hug that lasted a second too long for comfort and a second too short for comfort. People who know us could read either version. The table was a parade of friend groups that had learned to merge. There were the couples who finish each other's orders, the singles who perform being fine like it's a sport, the colleague who knows where all the bodies used to be. Evan was there, of course. Tote bag under the chair, laugh ready. When he looked up and saw us, he did something astonishing. He blushed, just enough to be interesting. Elevator, I heard my brain say helpfully. We ate everything you're supposed to eat when success is being measured. Little plates you can praise without committing to. The conversation moved like a well-funded river. Lena and I did our duet. The in-jokes still fit. Our timing hasn't expired. She touched my knee under the table, a message in Braille. I touched the stem of my glass as if it could translate. At the first toast, I stood beside Maya and said 3 sentences that made the room clap because they were shaped like clapping. I said I loved the book's title. I said we were honored to be inside the same orbit as strangers who behave like family. I said I believed in the heist of attention and in paying the ransom in kindness. People cheered as if we weren't all being burglarized by our own lives at least once a month. Evan didn't toast. He watched Lena the way you watch a place you once lived. Not greedy, not coy, just familiar in a way that made me feel like an understudy for my own role. I lasted until dessert, when Maya leaned in and whispered, "Are you okay?" I always forget she's the kind of friend who can see under the tablecloth. "No," I said, "but I'm also not going to ruin your night." "Please ruin it a little," she said, smiling for the others. "It'll make mine look better." We laughed, and laughter is a key that opens the wrong doors if you aren't careful. I excuse-me'd myself and walked the long way to the bathroom. The hallway outside the private dining room was covered with framed photos of people pretending to be intimate. A kid being carried on a father's shoulders. A couple in a kitchen scraping cake into each other's mouths in a way no adult does when they're not being watched. The door opened behind me. Of course it was Evan. Of course the universe ships you the worst possible package at the exact moment you're trying to be noble. "Hey," he said, and managed to make the word both apology and thesis. "Elevator," I said, "no fancy footwork." He looked at his shoes, which were the expensive kind that pretend not to be. "The freight elevator at the office is the only place where the sensors do nag you for staying still," he said. "We use it to breathe." I pictured Lena in that stark light, hair pulled into a knot, sitting on an aluminum crate because chairs were for people who didn't need to hide. My body did a small ache that felt like the polite version of violence. "How long?" I asked. "Long enough to have a ritual, not long enough to have a plan," he said. "She loves you." He said it gently, like he was telling me my own fortune. "I know," I said. "I love her too, that's not the problem." He nodded. We were men in a corridor performing a civility we didn't earn. "If you want me to leave," he said, "I will, not just tonight. I'll move projects, switch floors, get a new tote." "It's not a tote problem," I said. "It's a gravity problem, and gravity doesn't resign." He smiled with his mouth closed. "You're good at this," he said. "The eloquence, the pain." "Thanks," I said. "I do this for a living, not this. The talking like I meant to think of it." In the bathroom, I washed my hands like it would teach me some ritual about leaving. When I came back, Lena was already standing, coat in her hand, apology in her mouth. "Can we walk?" she asked. A court stenographer would have had a day. We told the table we were going to see the mural on Ninth, the one with the birds that look like they know your real name. We didn't see it. We walked toward the water because bodies move toward edges when they need horizon. "I'm not going to lie," she said, as if the car hadn't done the prologue for her. "I kissed him in the elevator, twice, and in the stairwell once. It wasn't sex. It was a rehearsal I wasn't brave enough to cancel." "Do you want to leave me?" I asked, a small question wearing boots. "No," she said, immediate. "Do you want both?" I asked, because questions deserve each other. "I want to be a person who doesn't want both," she said, which is one of those true things that refuses to be useful. We stood on the promenade and watched the ferry elbow the water. A couple took engagement pictures with a photographer who told them to laugh like they hadn't slept in days. The wind tried to tidy us and failed. "We have two choices," I said, arranging a future with words because it's how I know to hold a thing. "We make rules and keep them, or we make a scene and live in it." "Rules," she said, shivering in a way that had nothing to do with weather. And a pause, a month. "I'll move to Maya's, you stay. The apartment is yours. I don't want to make you pack your books like a villain." "I can take the couch at Liam," I said. "I don't want to turn our place into a museum for a fight." She reached for my face the way you do when you've been allowed to touch someone for a long time and are about to ask permission again. "Please don't hate me," she said. "I don't," I said, and the strange thing is that I meant it. Hate is drama. What I felt was a careful, serious grief. The kind that drinks water and sleeps 8 hours and still looks wrecked. We kissed, and it was a kiss that belongs to people who have paid rent together. Slow, cataloging, no alibi. My hands remembered her waist, her hands remembered my jaw. We didn't make it dirty, we made it honest. We stopped with our foreheads touching and the air doing the small work between us. Back home, we gathered the immediate essentials. She took a week of clothes and the softest of our towels. I took the plant because it was dying and I wanted an achievable project. At the door, Carplay's cousin, the lock, chirped a cheerful goodbye. It felt obscene and loyal at the same time. At Liam's, the couch announced itself like an old friend with a bad back. My brother stood in the doorway holding 2 beers and the kind of patience only siblings can fake. "Is this a tell me everything or a make me laugh night?" he asked. "Both," I said, "alternate." We did. We talked until the beer ran out, until the ceiling had no more stories to offer, until my phone buzzed with a text from a number I didn't recognize. "This is Tessa. I was at the reading. Friend of Maya. Not sure what I saw, but it had your silhouette. Do you like coffee that tells the truth?" I should have ignored it. I do not have that kind of talent. "Always," I wrote. We met in the morning at a place with chairs that wobbled just enough to keep conversations upright. Tessa was not a rescue and not a temptation. She was a witness. She had the expression of a person who has practiced being wrong out loud and survived. "I've been the Evan," she said, stirring sugar no one asked her to pour. "And I've been the you. Neither was worth the speech I wrote about it." "I don't need absolution," I said. "I need a different mirror." She laughed and it sounded like the beginning of a good song. "Great. I'm terrible at absolution. I'm pretty good at coffee." We walked after, because sitting makes some truths too shiny. She told me about the time her heart built a second home and then decided not to move in. I told her about CarPlay and the elevator and the problem with gravity. When she touched my arm to make a point about birds knowing how to navigate by light, my body did not mistake it for a promise. But later, days later, when I could breathe through a full afternoon without checking Lena's location like a meteorologist, I went to Tessa's place with a bottle of something and the deliberate calm of a person who intends to be honest even in his mouth. "We are not rebounds," I said at her door, "because gods appreciate offerings." "We are not a loophole," she said, because she has good tutors. The first kiss was a present tense thing. No revenge, no proof, just 2 people agreeing to be where their faces were. Her lips tasted like citrus and the kind of mercy you have to renew every minute. She slid her palms under my t-shirt with a kindness that made me dizzy. We didn't take it far. We kept it warm and decent, breath shared, shirts rumpled, hands reading like beginners who love the language. We stopped when stopping required teamwork. We grinned like thieves who decided not to rob the museum and were proud of themselves anyway. With Lena, the month unrolled like something made by a quiet, relentless machine. Therapy on Tuesdays. A "how's your day" text that didn't ask for more than it could hold. Photos of the stupid plants sending up one brave leaf. We walked once a week in bright places and said the kind of things that don't make good dialogue. "I miss you, I'm angry, I'm trying, I slept. I didn't, I want both. I want you. I'm not sure which version of you I mean." Evan sent a long email shaped like a confession but titled like a resignation. I didn't reply. I didn't need to be the moral of his story. At the end of the month, Lena came back to the apartment with a bag and a face that didn't assume. We didn't dramatize the threshold. We made tea. We sat at the table where bills become less frightening when you put them in a stack. The question stayed where we could both see it: rebuild or release. "Do you want to try again?" she asked. "For real, with bands on elevators and software that minds its business, with our hands on the same side." "Yes," I said, then, "and I want to go slow. Let's be people who date each other while knowing where the laundry is." "Deal," she said. "No grand reopenings, just Tuesday." We kissed like a handshake and like a promise. We went to sleep in the same bed and left a canyon between us that felt respectful, not cold. In the morning, CarPlay told me I had a message from Liam, memes, proof of life. The lock chimed when I left, the way it always does. Tessa texted at noon. "Found a bench with great light and terrible pigeons. If you ever want to sit and not fix anything." I wrote back the truth. "I'm trying again. I like who I am when I'm careful, keep the bench warm." "That's the hottest thing anyone's texted me this month," she wrote. "Go be careful." We're not an advertisement, we are a draft. Some nights the elevator inside my chest dings at the wrong floor and I have to ride it back down. Some mornings Lena laughs in the kitchen and I remember why I learned the words to us in the first place. We still hold hands on the console sometimes. The scar is still there. Her thumb still finds it. When the car speaks, we listen together. If it says a name we don't like, we turn it off with the big physical button that reminds you tech can be told to hush. The title of Maya's next book, she says, will be "The Rules We Keep When No One's Watching." I told her we'll pre-order 2 copies. She wrote back, "One for the car." I laughed until I cried. Then I wiped my face, turned the key, and let the city carry us someplace ordinary and worth it.